Καλησπέρα και πάλι από Ελλάδα. Welcome again from Greece. Σήμερα είμαστε στο μάθημα νούμερο 18. Λοιπόν, φτάσαμε στον αόριστο. Today we'll see the simple past. Before we see the simple past, we have to check your homework here. So now we'll just give the correct answers. Give me one second. Λοιπόν, νούμερο 1, πάμε. Εγώ θα μιλήσω με τη δασκάλα μου για το νέο πρόγραμμα. I will speak with my teacher for my new schedule. Ο Κώστας θα γελάσει με το αστείο του φίλου του. Κώστας will laugh with the joke of his friend. Εσύ θα βοηθήσεις τους γονείς σου με τις δουλειές του σπιτιού. You will help your parents with the house chores. Εμείς θα περπατήσουμε στην παραλία το απόγευμα. We will walk at the beach on the evening. Η Άννα θα τραγουδήσει στο πάρτι της επόμενης εβδομάδας. Anna will sing at the party of the next week. Ο παππούς θα οδηγήσει το αυτοκίνητό του στην πόλη. The grandpa will drive his car at the city. Εσείς, plural, θα μπορέσετε να επισκεφθείτε το μουσείο αύριο. You will be able to visit the museum tomorrow. Νούμερο 8. Τα παιδιά θα πονέσουν από την πολλή άσκηση αλλά θα ξεκουραστούν. Forget this πονέω. The verb is πονάω or πονώ. Πονάω or πονώ. So, τα παιδιά θα πονέσουν από την πολλή άσκηση αλλά θα ξεκουραστούν. The children will have pain after all this exercise but they will rest. My favorite verb. Εγώ θα χρησιμοποιήσω. Here you can use almost all of the E sounds we have. So, εγώ θα χρησιμοποιήσω τον υπολογιστή για την εργασία μου. I will use my computer for my homework. Ο Γιάννης θα συγχωρήσει. Ο Γιάννης θα συγχωρήσει. Ο Γιάννης θα συγχωρήσει το φίλο του για το λάθος που έκανε. Γιάννης will forgive his friend for the mistake he did. Η δασκάλα θα δημιουργήσει νέες δραστηριότητες για τους μαθητές. Η δασκάλα θα δημιουργήσει νέες δραστηριότητες για τους μαθητές. The teacher will create new activities for the students. Εσύ θα τηλεφωνήσεις τη θεία σου το βράδυ. You will call your aunt at night. Εγώ θα καλέσω τους φίλους μου για δείπνο την Παρασκευή. I will invite my friends for dinner on Friday. Η Ελένη θα ζήσει μια πολύ ήρεμη ζωή στο χωριό. Ελένη will live a very quiet, peaceful life at the village. Ο Νίκος θα αγαπήσει τα ζώα και θα φροντίσει τον σκύλο του. Nick will love the animals and he will take care of his dog. Αγαπήσει, my bad. Αγαπήσει. Λοιπόν, εμείς θα μιλήσουμε με τον δάσκαλο για την πρόοδό μας. We will talk with our teacher for our progress. Τα παιδιά θα γελάσουν με την ιστορία της γιαγιάς. The kids will laugh with the story of the grandma. Εσείς θα βοηθήσετε τον φίλο σας να μεταφέρει τα πράγματα. You will help your friend to carry his things. Και νούμερο 19, η Μαρία θα οδηγήσει το ποδήλατό της στο πάρκο. Οπότε, let's see also this exercise, which has also some type A1 verbs. Ο Κώστας θα μαγειρέψει αύριο στο σπίτι του. Κώστας will cook tomorrow at his home. Η Μαρία θα αγοράσει ψωμί από το φούρνο. Μαρία will buy bread from the bakery. Εμείς θα παίξουμε ποδόσφαιρο στο πάρκο. We will play football at the park. Οι μαθητές θα προσέξουν στο μάθημα την επόμενη εβδομάδα. The students will pay attention at the class which will happen next week. Εγώ θα τελειώσω την εργασία μου το απόγευμα. I will finish my homework at the evening. Εγώ θα γράψω ένα γράμμα στη φίλη μου. I will write one letter to my friend, female friend. Αυτή θα ανοίξει το παράθυρο το πρωί. She will open the window on the morning. Ο Νίκος και η Ελένη θα μιλήσουν για το σχέδιό τους. Nick and Helen, they will talk about their plan. Ο σκύλος μου θα τρέξει στο πάρκο. My dog will run at the park. Τα παιδιά θα γελάσουν πολύ στο πάρτι. Εμείς θα διαβάσουμε το νέο βιβλίο στο σχολείο. We will read the new book at the school. Εσύ θα λείψεις από τη συνάντηση αύριο. Εσύ θα λείψεις από τη συνάντηση αύριο. You will be away from the meeting tomorrow. Ο παππούς θα κλείσει την τηλεόραση αργότερα. The grandfather will close the TV later. Εγώ θα φτιάξω καφέ για τους καλεσμένους. I will make coffee for the guests. Και το τελευταίο, ο δάσκαλος θα ρωτήσει την ερώτηση ξανά. The teacher will ask the question again. Ο δάσκαλος θα ρωτήσει την ερώτηση ξανά. Τώρα είμαστε έτοιμοι να πάμε στον αόριστο. Now we are ready to go to the simple past. Πάμε. So, it's very important to remember the future tense. Let's take the verb αγοράζω, which means I buy. Αγοράζω means I buy. Κάθε μέρα αγοράζω. Every day I buy. Κάθε μέρα αγοράζω. Here we have the verb on present tense. Okay, κάθε μέρα αγοράζω. Every day I buy or every day I'm buying. If we want to use the verb in the future, in the simple future, it will be θα αγοράσω. Okay, so tomorrow I will buy, it will be αύριο θα αγοράσω. Tomorrow I will buy. Now, about the past, what we do is, of course, we don't use θα means will, but we keep the verb as it's formed on the simple future. I mean, we keep the stem of the verb, which is αγοράς, not αγοράζ, okay, αγοράς, and what we do now is we start to add these word endings. So, if you want to say I bought, you will say αγόρασα. Λοιπόν, before we start checking the word endings, it's very important to say that the stress on the simple past moves one syllable to the left, always. So now what we do, the verb is, as we said, αγοράσω, right? Αγοράσω. So we keep the αγοράς, okay, and we start adding the word endings. If we want to use the verb in the future, in the simple future, it will be θα αγοράσω. Okay, so tomorrow I will buy, it will be αύριο θα αγοράσω. Tomorrow I will buy. Now, about the past, what we do is, of course, we don't use θα means will, but we keep the verb as it's formed on the simple future. I mean, we keep the stem of the verb, which is αγοράς, not αγοράζ, okay, αγοράς, and what we do now is we start to add these word endings. Λοιπόν, before we start checking the word endings, it's very important to say that the stress on the simple past moves one syllable to the left. Αγόρασα for the first person. I bought. Then, if you want to say you bought, you will say αγόρασες. The stress stays again here, so αγόρασα, αγόρασες. Third person, αγόρασε, he, she, it, bought. And then, on plural, αγοράσαμε, we both. Αγοράσατε, you bought. And they bought, αγόρασαν. Let's try with one more verb, because the simple past is a bit difficult. Let's take the verb πληρώνω, which means I pay. Πληρώνω. It belongs to the type A1 verbs, so in the simple future it will be θα πληρώσω. I will pay. Πληρώνω. I pay. So in the simple future it will be θα πληρώσω. So what we do, we will say, we move the one, λοιπόν, the stress is here, so you move it to the left, so it will be πλη. We keep the stem of the verb, which is πλήρως, and then we start adding the word ending. So πλήρωσα, I paid. Πλήρωσες, you paid. Πλήρωσε, he, she, it paid. Πληρώσαμε, we paid. Πληρώσατε, you paid, plural. And πλήρωσαν, they paid. And that's all. This is what you need to remember about the simple future. That's why I told you it's very important. Λοιπόν, now let's take an example of a B1 verb. Λοιπόν, let's take the verb μιλάω. I speak, I talk. How it will be in the simple future? Θα μιλήσω. And what we do again, we move the stress to the left, so it will be mil is. Okay, so it will be milis. This is the stem of the verb. And now we start to add the word ending for the past. So, μίλησα, I spoke. So, μίλησα, I spoke. Μίλησες, you spoke. Μίλησε, he, she, it spoke. And then plural. Μιλήσαμε, we spoke. Μιλήσατε, you spoke. And μίλησαν, they spoke. Λοιπόν, the same rule applies for the be-to verbs. Let's say an example, the verb μπορώ, which means I can. In the simple future, it will be θα μπορέσω, I will be able. So in the past, we move the stress to the left, we keep the stem, which is μπόρες, and now we start at the word ending. So, μπόρεσα, μπόρεσες, μπόρεσε, I could, you could, he, it could, and in plural, μπορέσαμε, μπορέσατε, and μπόρεσαν. We could, you could, and they could. Και αυτά. This is how all the verbs work. Now, we have to see one more thing. I know it's very difficult. I'm sorry for our grammar, but this is how it works. So now you have to remember one more thing. Let's take the verb βάφω, which means I paint. So, all the verbs we've seen here so far, okay, they were type B1 or type B2, and most of times, okay, they had 3 syllables or more. Now, what happens when you have a verb that has 2 syllables, like the verb βάφω? Λοιπόν, for all the verbs, most of the verbs that they have, except the irregular, they have 2 syllables. Again, we move the verbs in the simple future to conjugate the simple past. So, βάφω, it will be θα βάψω. Okay, and now we have to move the stress 1 syllable to the left. We don't have 1 syllable, so what we will do is we will add an extra at the beginning. So the verb will be έβαψε. Okay, so from βάψε we add an to move the stress to the left. We keep the βάψε, which is the stem of the verb on the simple future, and then we start again adding the word ending. So έβαψα, I painted. Έβαψες, you painted, and έβαψε, he, she, it painted. And to make it even more difficult, imagine that most of times in the past the verbs like they need to have 3 syllables or more. So now on plural, because we add an extra syllable as a word ending, as you already see, we don't need the extra at the beginning to move the stress. So the verb will be βάψαμε, we painted. So βάψαμε, because the we person has an extra syllable, and then the you person on plural has also an extra syllable, so it will be βάψατε. Okay, so for we and you on plural, we don't, on simple past, for the verbs that they have 2 syllables, we don't add the at the beginning because they have an extra syllable, so we can move the stress to the left. And then again, for they person on plural, it will be βάψαν. So you have to remember that we add when we have 2 syllables, when we have verbs that they have 2 syllables. For first person, έβαψα, second person, έβαψες, third person, έβαψε, singular, and then we add also the for third person on plural, έβαψαν. We don't add the because they have an extra syllable, and we can move the stress to the left to the we person and you person on plural. Αυτά. Λοιπόν, let's see one more example with one verb that it has 2 syllables. Let's take the verb κλείνω, okay, which has 2 syllables again. So κλείνω. In the simple future it will be θα κλείσω. Okay, what we do, we add the we move the stress to the left and we write έκλεισα, I closed, έκλεισες, you closed, έκλεισε, he, she, it closed, but then κλείσαμε, we closed, κλείσατε, you closed, and again έκλεισαν. Λοιπόν, αυτά. We said that the stress moves to the left. We said that the verbs that they have 2 syllables, they add the in the past. So this was the rule about the simple past. Of course, there are some irregular verbs, which we'll see on Unit 19. Now, as you already know, I have one exercise for you here to practice. Try to check this video. Write on the comments below if you need any help, if you want to make a video that I will explain further the simple past. And also in the next video we'll see the irregular verbs, some of the most important irregular verbs, and we'll see how we use them in the future and also in the past. Οπότε αυτά για σήμερα, ελπίζω τα βίντεο να σας βοηθάνε. Στο επόμενο κεφάλαιο θα δούμε τα ανώμαλα ρήματα. Προσπαθήστε να κάνετε την άσκηση για το σπίτι και αυτά για σήμερα. Πολλά χαιρετίσματα από Ελλάδα, να είστε καλά, να περνάτε καλά και καλή δύναμη σε όλους και όλες. Γεια σας.